Good evening, everyone. Today is March 5th, 2026. I'm Stephen Bogart LeBeau, Vice Chair of the Municipal Services Committee, with the Chair Edgar Ramos, who just landed in Puerto Rico and making us jealous because he's in 82 degrees weather. But it's good that you joined us, Edgar. On February 22, 2026, Governor Kathy Hochul issued the Executive Order number 58, declaring a disaster emergency through the state of New York, which then authorizes the community board to conduct this meeting remotely. So the minutes of this meeting will be posted on our website and the recording will be posted on YouTube. And if you're calling into the meeting on the conference call, controls while joining from a landline or a cell phone by calling the dial-up number, and then to hear all the available commands, you enter star star 6 to mute or unmute yourself, and star 9 to virtually raise your hand. So the committee agenda will be as follows. First, we'll have the guidelines, which I will read, then the roll call, review of the previous minutes, and then the follow-up from the previous month, and then we'll entertain new business. So the code of conduct. The Bronx Community Board has the right to remove a board member or member of the public from a meeting for engaging in inappropriate conduct, including but not limited to obscene, threatening, or harassing language, slander, threats of violence, personal attacks of any kind, or offensive, inflammatory comments on the basis of ethnicity, race, age, religion, gender, sexual orientation, and/or disability. Members who engage in that kind of behavior or any other behavior that reasonably impedes the orderly administration of the meeting while at a board meeting shall be removed from the board meeting at the discretion of the chair or chair designee. So during this Zoom meeting, everyone besides the speaker presenter will remain silent throughout the meeting. After each presentation, the chair will ask whether the committee members have any questions. Committee members will signify that they have a question by raising their hand when the chair opens the floor, and only those recognized by the committee chair may speak during the allotted time. We will stay on topic with the agenda items, and we have a full agenda today. We have 4 different presentations from different agencies. Any other items will be acknowledged by the chair in new business or addressed at the next meeting, provided that there is time and the committee agrees on the topic. Following questions, discussion, and public comments, the committee will begin its discussion after each presentation, agenda item, and if applicable, conclude with a vote on the recommendation. When the agenda is finished, the meeting will be adjourned. So now let's go through the roll call, take the attendance. Edgar Ramos is present. Andrew Leosa, is Andrew here yet? I don't see him. I think he's absent.
Not yet.
Okay, Betty Arce is
Betty
here.
Arce present.
Gwen Thomas Steed. Okay, I think is absent. Aline Hartman, Kodnowski.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Jean Hill is here, yes?
Present.
Present. Lowell Green. Lowell, unmute yourself.
Star 6, Lowell.
Star 6. Well, we saw her here.
She has to verbally say that
Yeah.
she's here. Let me try to ask her to unmute. Hold on.
All right. We chatted hello earlier.
You can come back to her.
We'll
Just
continue.
wanted to
Manjur-
say present.
Okay, Manjur Chowdhury.
Manjur Chaudhary present.
Robin Roland. Robin Roland. I think she's absent for the moment. And me, Stephen
You
Bogart
just
LeBeau.
join. Hold on. I saw her here.
Who, Robin?
Yeah, she just joined. Maybe she's joining the audio.
Okay.
I see Lowell. Lowell, can you unmute?
Lowell is here. So a quorum is six or more, and we have at least six. I
Mhm.
think actually we have eight. We have seven with I think
Hello,
Lowell and eight with Robin.
can you hear me? Hi, it's Robin.
Okay, Robin is present. Very good. Good evening, Robin.
Okay, I'm
Okay,
here.
Lowell. Okay.
I don't
So,
press strong enough to unmute. That's my problem.
okay. So, everyone, take a couple of moments to please review the previous minutes. And then after you review the previous minutes, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
I move to accept the minutes.
Okay, second.
Second that motion, Jean.
Okay. So let's have a roll call again on approving the minutes. So Edgar Ramos,
Edgar Ramos, yes.
okay. Andrew is absent for the moment. Betty Arce,
Yes.
Gwen Thomas Steed, she's absent, I think. Helene Hartman, Helene,
Yes.
Jean Hill,
Yes.
okay. Lowell Green,
Lowell says yes.
Manjor Chowdhury,
Manzoor Chaudhary say yes.
Robin Roland, Robin Roland. Maybe she stepped away from it. I am voting yes. So I think that's already a quorum, but let's go back to Helene. Is Helene back? Maybe she
Yes,
stepped
I
away
was
from it.
there. I couldn't get, guess you didn't hear
Okay,
me. Yes.
you vote yes. Okay, and Robin Roland? Okay. Well, we have enough for approval of the previous month's minutes. So um, now we go to the agenda in the meeting, and we have the first presentation by the New York City Fire Department. To make a presentation is Jeffrey Kootman in, or someone from the fire department?
Yes, hello everyone. Good evening.
Okay, the floor is yours for your
All right. Well,
presentation.
thank you everyone for joining us tonight. My name, like he said, is Jeffrey Cutman. I've been with the department for about 9 years now, and I am currently with FDNY Fire Safety. And I'm just going to give you a quick little presentation on what you guys can do at home. You know, you can spread the word with family and friends, and what you can do to prevent yourselves from being caught in unsafe fire situations. The very first thing I want to notate, and it's the very most important, is everyone should have a working smoke detector, and a combination smoke and CO detector. And if you don't have access to one, nowadays there's no reason to, because if you look right behind me, you see this website behind me, fdnysmart.org.
Mhm.
If you go to that website in partnership with the Red Cross and the fire department, for all residents of the 5 boroughs, they are giving out smoke detectors and combination smoke and CO detectors. So again, it's really important to spread the word, family, friends. It's available for all all boroughs, all 5 boroughs. So no one should really not have these at home because this is your very first line of defense. God forbid fire breaks out in the middle of the night and you're sleeping, your nose will not wake you up, right? You have to rely on this auditory sound to wake you up. Unfortunately, we've seen it too many times where people will succumb to smoke inhalation and the fire actually doesn't, kill them. It's the smoke that gets them. And unfortunately, they never wake up. So I can't stress how important this is to have. And now every New Yorker should have one. And again, it's a program that's put together with the FDNY and the Red Cross. As soon as you go to that website, you can see it. You just got to put in your information. Red Cross will reach out to you, set up a date, and then the FDNY comes and installs them. We do one combination on every floor, and then we'll do a smoke detector in every bedroom. So you don't even have to worry about what you need. We'll come and we'll assess the whole situation. And I also want to notate, besides the smoke detectors, they also offer let's see if I can get this in the camera. It's called the Life Tone. And what this is, it's for anyone who's hard of hearing. It's a device that gets paired to the smoke detector. And then it sits next to your bed. And then there's a little hockey puck here that sits underneath the mattress. And this thing will vibrate once one of these go off. So again, this is also available free of charge to all the residents in New York City. You just have to sign up for it through the program and just let them know that you'll need that accessory device. The other thing I want to really stress that every household should have is one of these simple fire extinguishers, right? The most important thing with these fire extinguishers, sorry, the video's cutting out. The most important thing to note with these fire extinguishers is you need a fire extinguisher that's what's called class A, B, and C. Those are the 3 types of fires that you will come across in your own residence, right? So that's electrical, that's paper fires, clothing, and your grease fires that can happen in the kitchen. The most important thing to do with these fire extinguishers, right? We have an acronym called PASS. It's pretty simple. P stands for pull. You want to pull this pin out. You want to aim the fire extinguisher, right? Now, you may be tempted. You see those hot orange, bright red flames. You may be tempted to aim that fire extinguisher up at those flames. You do not want to do that. What you really want to do is aim the fire extinguisher at the base of the fire, right? And when you do that, next thing is you're going to squeeze the trigger, right? So you just press it down. And then the biggest thing, the other S, is side to side. So just a little side to side motion. And that's it. That's all you're doing to try to use this on a fire. The other biggest thing to notate, if you do end up using a fire extinguisher, is to always have your back towards an exit. You never want to be trying to put out a fire and have that fire between you and your exit. You always want to have your back towards an exit. God forbid the fire extinguisher runs out. You don't have, you're not able to control it. You want to be able to drop this and quickly exit out of your residence. And most importantly, whenever you do exit a room of fire, always close that door behind you, right? That's very big. I'm sure you've all seen it on the news over the last couple of years where large apartment buildings, the fires get uncontrollable. And typically it's because there's a door that's been left open and the fire travels out into the hallways. So we can't stress that enough. God forbid your residence is ever, whether it's a private home, apartment, always close doors. It contains the fire to that room. And you can always look it up online. It's pretty fascinating, but you can see just a regular simple wooden door will hold back fire for quite some time. It's amazing at how much more control and time that allows us to get in to put the fire out and keeps everybody safe. The next most important thing that we can't stress enough nowadays, for every individual, especially individuals living in apartment buildings, is you have to have a plan of action, right? God forbid, hopefully nobody's ever caught in a fire, but if you are, you need to have a plan of action. And that starts with knowing what type of building you live in, right? Most of New York City buildings, there's two types. We call them non-fireproof and fireproof buildings. Now, most of your landlord should be able to tell you. If not, you can get on the city websites and put in your address and it'll list what kind of construction you have. But it's important to notate because depending on which building you live in is how you're going to respond, right? So if you live in a non-fireproof apartment building, that's typically a good way of telling right off the bat if that's what the kind of building you have fire escapes, right? If your building has fire escapes, you're a non-fireproof building. You have wood construction in your building. And if there's a fire in that building, it can easily spread from apartment to apartment or floor to floor. And in that instance, you want to vacate that building, not just your apartment, but you want to leave right away. And remember, again, anytime you leave, especially if it's your apartment on fire, you got to shut that door behind you, right? But you're going to leave that building. And now your next step is you need to have a plan of action with your family members, friends, neighbors, right? Everyone should be in communication to where you all are going to meet now that you're evacuating that building. Because us as the fire department, we pull up and first thing we want to know is anybody trapped inside, right? So if everyone knows where to congregate, everybody can keep account for each other. And when we pull up, it's not a question of, oh, we don't know where so-and-so is. They might be inside. They might not be inside, and then it turns out, well, luckily they made it out, but they're down the block, right? So you want to have a plan of action. What staircase everybody's going down, right? Where you're going to meet. Are you going to meet in the corner? Is there a mailbox? We would not, a meeting place you don't want to use is a fire hydrant, right? Because we're going to be using that. There's going to be a lot going on, but you want to meet somewhere outside of the building, preferably away from the front of the building, right? Because that's where there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. The next thing I also want to reiterate is no matter what building you're at, never take an elevator, right? Always use the stairs, never take an elevator because when smoke gets in the elevator shafts, it cuts out power and you can get trapped in there. So you want to stay away from the elevators. Now, if you live in the other building type, your fireproof building, and the way you know that is there's typically no fire escapes. It's usually about 75 feet or higher, so 7 stories or more. And sometimes there's sprinklers, but that's what's called solid construction, right? It's all cement walls, cement floors, cement ceilings. And in those situations, you are much safer in your apartment rather than leaving your apartment. Unless your apartment is the one on fire, then you leave. But if your apartment is not on fire, you need to stay in your apartment, right? And if there is smoke coming into your apartment, you want to either damp a towel, put it underneath the door. If you have the HVAC system, you want to shut that down if you can, right? That'll limit the smoke coming into your apartment. The other thing you can do is just hang out by a window, crack a window, and as long as there's no smoke coming in, you're fine. But we can't stress that enough. If you live in a fireproof building, you have to stay in your apartment. A few years ago, I'm sure you're all familiar with the story of the apartment complex in the Bronx, where unfortunately I think it was like 20 people perished, and it wasn't because of the fire. They perished in the staircase, right? They ended up taking the wrong staircase. They got trapped. They got overcome with smoke, and within seconds, they became unconscious. So this is why we really reiterate: if you live in a fireproof building, the safest place for you to be is in your apartment. And God forbid there is an issue, we have plenty of time to come get you, and we will escort you out because we don't want that to happen. We know what staircase to bring you down, right? And we know which one we're using and which one we can walk you down. So those are the 2 plans of action you want to have. And then the other thing I just want to mention real quick is the biggest cause of concern that we are facing right now in the city. Luckily, it's warming up this couple of weeks, but right, we have all these extension cords that are running around. Holiday lights are getting plugged in. The biggest culprits are space heaters, right? It's important to note anything that changes temperature, right? Anything that's hot, anything that's cold, space heaters, microwaves, refrigerators, air conditioners in the summer, you do not want to plug them into these things, right? You don't want to plug them into the power strip, and you don't want to plug them into the extension cord. These are not rated for that. These are just for regular normal day electronic devices. What you want to do with those devices that change temperature, those have to be directly plugged into a wall outlet. That is the safest use of those, right? So again, it's tough. I get it. We live in New York City. Outlet spaces aren't that all. They're hard to come by. But again, this is where we're seeing a lot of issues nowadays, especially in the wintertime. All of those electronics, right? Space heaters, Christmas lights, cooking devices are all plugged into these. And they're not rated for that. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody might have any at the moment.
I have my hand up. My name is Jean Hill. I live in a high-rise building. It is fireproof. We have had major fires here at points in time. Fortunately, we all have terraces for each apartment. So we've had to go out on the terrace and wait while the fire department came to put out whatever fire was going on. We had a bad fire about 4 years ago, and if it wasn't for those terraces, it would have been a high casualty because the smoke was so intense. In my own apartment, I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. I had to crawl to the bathroom to get something to put over my face so I could get out onto the terrace. And that's where we stayed. And we talked to everybody on the terraces because some people were panicking and they wanted to run out. We said, no, please don't do that. Stay on the terrace until the fire department gives us the all clear. Another thing I wanted to mention is that for small kitchen fires, right? You sometimes have a grease fire in the kitchen. I keep boxes of baking soda. When we've had a kitchen fire, some pot caught on fire, I smother it with baking soda and cover it with a top. I've always found that that's been very helpful. So I always not keep baking soda, not just to keep the smells out of the refrigerator, but it's good in putting out a small kitchen fire. Throw the baking soda on it, cover it with a top, and that will generally smother the fire.
Yes. So that baking soda you use is the same thing. It's sodium bicarbonate. It's that same thing that's in this fire extinguisher. You got to make sure you can't use, don't rely on, like you said, the baking soda in the fridge, because that usually becomes like a solid block after a while. Always keep a fresh little small bottle right near the stove. And
yeah, I usually keep 4 and 5 different boxes sitting on the counter so that it's always handy. Anybody could see it, anybody could pick it up. And I always explain to the kids, even when they were younger people, although most of the time they're going to come and get me anyway. They woke me up out of dead sleep. Oh, it's a fire in the kitchen. And then I come in and put it out. And it was like, wow, you just do that like that?
yeah,
But I know that that's the same thing in the fire hose, canister.
Yep, it's the same exact thing, except the fire extinguisher is pressurized. But we always recommend having the baking soda near the stove because that is a lot easier of a cleanup than setting off one of these in your kitchen. This, even though they both do the same job, this creates a bit more of a mess. So if you can contain it with the baking soda, you'll be much more happier. And I just wanted to reiterate, thank God you did have the terrace, but God forbid if you are in an apartment and the smoke is getting too much, you still need to stay in that apartment. But what you need to do is, if you're in the living room, go back to a bedroom, right? But then you can just call 911 and you let them know that, let them know you're in that fire building, give them your apartment number, and we will come and get you out of there. I know it might be scary and you might be tempted to run out of your apartment, but again, that's the worst thing you could do. Just try to stay in your apartment. You stay as low as possible. You stay towards a window and you just call 911, let them know which apartment you are. And I promise you the dispatch will get right in touch with the chief that's at the fire grounds and they will send somebody to you.
Thanks, Gene, for the tip about the baking soda. Chad had his hand up. Chad, you have a question?
Yes, hi, good evening. A great presentation. I have two questions. One,
Yes.
When this happened to me, unfortunately, it was a false alarm on my smoke detector, CO detector. But if the CO detector alarm is positive, what is usually the rule when that happens and it's in your household or the next household? And then the second question is, how reliable are those fire blankets that they advertise on TV? I think one of them is called Prepared Hero, comes in a
Yeah.
pack.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So for the first question, for the smoke detectors, right? If you're getting a one beep and it's going off every 60 seconds or so, typically that's an indicator of a dead battery, right? Other than that, if they go off 4 beeps, that means it's picking up on something, right? But none of these are foolproof. They have 10-year lifespans, right? And we've had it where unfortunately we installed them and we get called back, maybe a couple weeks later and there's a malfunction, right? But what we tell everybody is better safe than sorry, right? Because CO, especially with CO, you have no idea whether you have that building up in the house or not. And by the time you're aware, you're unconscious. So anytime one of these go off, it's better safe than sorry. Just call for the fire department. We'll come with our meters and we can assess the situation for you. Right? It's always better safe than sorry in that instance.
so if they were to detect CO and it's from the apartment, what would generally they advise you to do?
So typically, if it's in an apartment building, right? Well, the first thing we'll do is we have to vent out. So we're going to open up the windows, right? And then we're going to try to locate the source of that CO, right? So maybe it might be coming from the stove if it's a gas stove. Could be coming from if you have a washer dryer unit in there, right? If you don't have any of those things, now we have to trace it down maybe to the basement of the building and the utility room because maybe it's maybe it could be affecting other apartments and it's going up, traveling up pipe chases from the utility room in the basement. But again, we have all these different meters to test it. Not only do we have the meters that will allow us to get a number reading, to see whether it's dangerous or not, but we can actually have a detector and it'll actually help us locate where the leak is coming from.
Got you. Thank you.
Yep.
The fire blankets.
Yes. So with the fire blankets, so we've been getting this question a lot. The fire blankets do work, right? But there is a risk to the fire blankets. And it's hard for me to demonstrate that right now. But the idea of the fire blanket is you're gonna drop it over the fire and it's gonna suffocate the fire. It's gonna remove the oxygen, right? Why we typically don't like the fire blanket too much is because God forbid, especially on a grease fire, if you toss that fire blanket over the pan and you don't get it completely over the pan, and let's say just a quarter of it's exposed, it's still going to burn. And that fire blanket might start to catch fire eventually, right? But here's the worst part, is if you go to grab that blanket again, remove it, as soon as you remove it, you're introducing oxygen, and that thing is going to erupt bigger than before. So it's not that you can't use it, you can't have it, but in all honesty, a fire extinguisher is much better, or the baking soda, because that, as you pour the baking soda, as you shoot the fire extinguisher on it, it's going to start to smother it, and you can see where the fire, where at the base of the fire, where it's still coming from, right? So there's really less of a chance of you missing it and not putting it out. Those fire blankets, again, depending on the type of fire, if let's just say, you drop a cigarette on a pile of clothes, that's a little more forgiving. But if you're using the fire blanket on a grease fire, it's almost like you got one good shot to drop that thing in. And if you don't catch it, it's a little tough to kind of remove it and put it back. So I hope that,
Jeffrey, do you
hope,
have, sorry, do you have an email or phone number if anybody needs to ask you a question?
Yes. I believe you can email, it should be the contact on that fdnysmart.org.
Right.
You can email any questions you have through there. There should be a contact page on that.
Okay. Nicosa, you have a quick question?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Kind of limits. I feel like it's probably the same question that Chad had, but I feel like my fire detector is defective because My management put in new fire alarms last year sometime. A month later, I was getting a beep. And it wasn't a consecutive beep. It's like a beep, and then minutes later, I'll get another beep. It almost sounds like a skid, like somebody skidding through the house. But how often should I have to change these batteries? I just feel like they're being changed too often.
They should last again about 10 years. Um,
Okay.
if that's the case, then it is probably defective. And that's what I want to quickly mention, right? Um, typically, New York City landlords are only required to install them, on your initial move in, right? Some landlords will constantly replace them, but some it's just an initial move in. And that's why this is a great program. So in your instance, you have a faulty one, maybe you don't even want to deal with the landlord again who's going to replace it with the same one. If you contact, the Red Cross, we'll come and we'll install the ones that we get.
Thank you, Jeffrey, for an excellent
Thank
presentation.
you.
Appreciate it. I know
Yep.
we have 3 more presentations to go, so
Thank you, everyone. Have
appreciate
a
it.
great night.
Thank you. Next, we should hear from the Office of Assembly Member John Zaccaro on his assembly bill.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name's Ayana Armstrong. I'm the legislative coordinator for Assemblymember John Sakara Jr. First, I'd like to thank Carla and the committee for the opportunity to speak tonight. Our office is respectfully requesting for CB7 support on one of Assemblymember's bills, A9193A. And this bill would amend the general business law to penalize users who put e-bikes and e-scooters in unauthorized areas with the fine accruing until their return to a designated location. Our office is committed to strengthen protections for pedestrians and are actively researching and supporting bills that would address these concerns. We believe that this bill is an important first step in improving the quality of life in our district, especially as we consistently hear about this issue at monthly community board meetings and community precinct council meetings over the past year. We've also received support from Bedford Mashulu, Pelham Parkway Neighborhood Association, and the Alton Homeowners Association, which highlights the community backing for this bill. Assembly members Zakaro in our office would greatly appreciate it if you could write us a memo of support, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Ayana, I have a question. I
Yes.
read the bill. I agree with it in principle, but I read the bill and it talks about penalties for or fines for any violator, but it does not list an amount, any kind of an amount or anything. So,
So,
so I'm wondering whether that can be included. Number one. Number two, I see that it was first introduced years ago. Why has it not passed thus far? It's already 2 or 4 years.
So for the first question regarding the monetary amount, we're gonna leave it up to the stakeholders like Bird and Limebike to set those penalties. And for your second question, we had to amend the bill for the first time because with the bill language and everything, so we had to figure out how to incorporate it in order for it to get passed through the transportation committee. So we had to meet with relevant stakeholders, like I mentioned, Lime and Bird, just to see what we can do to amend the bill language to have it sufficient enough for a program and council. Those are like the people that accept the bill language and all of that in amendment, if that answers your question.
Anybody else? Any other committee members have any other questions for Ayana? Okay, after we hear the presentations, we may then want to take up voting on it and have a roll call and take up voting on it for their
Okay,
request for a letter of support or not,
okay,
depending on how the vote goes.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ayana. Next, I know we have a presentation from the New York City Department of Design and Construction.
Stephen, you have a question from Jean.
Okay.
I did have one
Oh,
quick
now I
question,
see. Yeah.
Stephen. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jean.
A lot of young people use these bikes, in areas where there are schools and what have you. Are they going to be charged if these bikes are not put back in the proper places?
Yes, it's every user. So even I forgot the name in Albany, like there's a specific company for e-scooters. When I was using it, they charge you until you put it back in the proper location. But they also have like a video on how to put it directly in there. And they also do like user face friendly things. So like the students won't be charged unless they put it back properly. So there'll be a tutorial on how to do it with the
Okay, so like say if they pick up the bike over here near DeWitt Clinton, right?
Mhm.
And then they leave it at a spot on Fordham Road. They have to bring it back to where they got it from on DeWitt Clinton, or is it okay if they put it in a space on Fordham Road?
No, as long as it's a designated area, because sometimes they have like it's marked and it has like a scooter or a bike. And also if they just put it, I think it's like a little bit before the sidewalk, but not too close to the sidewalk. So they'll have guidelines for how to place it properly. So you won't get charged if you don't know, but you'll know on the app. It'll tell you where to put it.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Betty?
Yeah, Ayana, the young people like Gita Singh or anyone, how are people charged um penalty wise? Is it because I don't know how these e-bikes are used. Is it through a credit card?
Yes, it's through a credit card. So like when you have the app, I think you put your credit card information on there. You
Right.
rent it for like I guess however far or distance that you're going, and then once you're
Mhm.
done, you put it back in the designated area. I'm assuming you take a picture, and then it'll let you know if it's in the correct area. Then you don't get charged if it's in the correct designated spot.
So unlike like a city bike that has these docking stations, these scooters don't, right?
Yeah, it just depends on the company, but with the company, with this bill, it'll have a designated area. It'll tell you how many feet from the sidewalk it has to be. It has to
Okay.
be held upright, not like you see it in the street
Right,
sometimes.
right,
So
right.
it'll defer those.
Okay, so then the penalty will be charging the user's credit card account?
Yes, if they
Okay.
don't put it back properly.
Right, got it. Okay, all right, thank you.
No problem.
Edgar has a question.
Yeah, basically it's just a quick comment. That's what I just wanted to clarify what she was just talking about. As far as the city bikes have a docking station where you pick them up and you drop them off. Those of scooters are a little different. They don't have actual docking stations. They have markings on the sidewalk of where they should be left. But like as she was stating, sometimes people don't put them right inside the box or they leave them haphazardly anywhere and it becomes a tripping hazard. Cars hit them. I mean, it just, but it's different from the city bike where city bike is an actual docking station. The scooters, you're expected to leave them like within a box, and they're usually marked off either on a sidewalk or on a parking spot of where you can leave them.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else?
I have a question. It's
Sure.
Robin. I
Hi,
just
Robin.
just want to make sure, just not make sure, but hopefully that people's credit cards won't be run up unwarranted uh, for penalties. And I would hate to see that happen, especially for youth, if there is some issue with not being able to properly comply or there is some malfunction. Um, so will there be safeguards for those type of issues?
So we met with Lime and Bird, and I think Bird already said that they already have this implemented. So they should have safeguards for in place if there's like a bug in the app or anything like that. But I'm assuming that you just call customer service or if there's like an
Mm.
issue or anything like that. But I haven't heard any issues about that.
I think there should be something for the customers, not just the company. Um, where because sometimes, as we know, customer service is not always helpful. So there should be some consideration for the customers that they don't get unfairly charged.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree.
Helene, you have a
Yeah,
question?
just very quick. In light of what Robin is pointing out, which is very valid, is it in English and Spanish? Are there other languages? Because my concern would be, are the directions really clear?
Yeah, it'll be multilingual. We met with the relevant stakeholders, as I mentioned, so
Mhm.
they have it in different languages for every person that's signed up on the app. So whatever language your phone is in, that's what the directions will be in.
That's good to know. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Ayana, for the presentation, and we'll take up a vote on it.
I have my hand up.
Oh, I didn't see Lowell. Now
Okay,
I see. Okay.
okay. What is the age limit to, Lois, to rent these? Because if you're too low, they may not have a credit card to use to pay for use.
I don't think you can get around that, though.
That's a good question. I'm not sure about the age limit, but I think that maybe they could do a parent account, but I could double check with that and then let the CB7 know and get that answer for you.
I just want to, hi, this is Holly. I'm with DOT with the Bronx office. How are you?
Hi, Holly.
Users have, at least for the shared e-scooters, have to be 18 years old. They show an ID, they have to scan their ID on the app in order to use the e-scooters, the shared scooters.
Thank you.
Which I don't believe there are any e-scooters. We don't have e-scooters within CB7. You have city bikes.
But how do they pay if they don't have a credit card? That means they can't use it.
Yes, unless
Yes.
they're using somebody else's card, a parent's card or.
Right. Thank you, Ayana.
All right, thank you.
I just want to clarify, we do see them in our neighborhood. I mean, I see them all over the neighborhood. Was that Holly that had said that? That we don't have them in CB7?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we. Okay.
I mean, I see them. I don't know what that means.
No, they
It's like,
just get displaced in CB7.
Sometimes, yeah,
Right.
We don't
exactly.
It's
we don't
not the
necessarily
service
have.
area.
oh, okay. Okay. Interesting. Okay, fine.
The next presentation we have is from the New York City.
Stephen, before you move on,
Sure.
I think the office is requesting a letter of support. Are you all voting on it?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe we do the vote after the presentations.
Mm-mm.
You want to vote now?
No.
We could vote now.
Yes.
Okay. So, so the
You need a
request is
motion.
for a letter of support. So do I hear a motion for a letter of support for the Assemblyman's
I offer that we
bill?
put through a motion for a letter of support for Assemblyman Zacaro's bill number A for Alice 9193 A for Alice, in reference to bikes, e-bikes, city bikes.
I second the motion.
Okay.
That's Betty. I second the
All
motion.
right. So let's have a roll call. Edgar Ramos? Edgar?
Yes. I vote yes.
Edgar votes yes. Okay. Betty?
Yes.
Gwen? Gwen is absent. Helene?
Helene votes yes.
Okay. Jean Hill?
Green Hill votes yes.
Lowell Green?
Lowell Green votes yes.
Manjur Chowdhury?
Manjur Chaudhary, yes.
Good. And Robin?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, so that motion passes for a letter of support for Assemblyman Zacaro.
Thank you. We greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome. Very good. Good presentation. So the next presentation is with the New York City Department of Design and Construction. This is regarding the Library Lane project update. I think Maria Centeno.
Yes,
Is
hello,
here.
hi, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good. So I'm joined here by DDC staff from design, our outreach, IGA, and we also have our design consultants as well who will present. In addition, I think we also have our city partner agencies, sponsor agency, DOT. I don't know if everybody needs to introduce themselves, but yes, we're here to give an update to the community board on the library lane. We've had some developments and some changes since a while ago, since the last presentation that was given on this project. I'd like to turn it over to the presenter. Thank you.
Hi.
Okay.
Yeah, my name is Wing Sung. Sorry. I'm from Parsons Transportation Group. I just want to share my screen, so just send a request.
You should be able to present now.
Yep.
Let me know.
I'm trying to share. 1 second. Let me know if you see my screen.
Yes.
Right. Get into full screen mode. 1 second. Okay. All right. Here you go. All right. Good evening. My name is Wing Sung, and I'm from Parsons Transportation Group, and I am here on the behalf of DDC and City DOT to present the project updates for HWD 10503, which is the reconstruction of Library Lane, also currently known as Coes Lane. For this presentation, I'll be going through the background and some of the existing conditions, the scope of work, and then I'll show some visuals of the proposed improvements, and then I'll give an update on the project schedule, and then provide some information on community outreach, and then we'll open it up for some questions. So some background, the project is located within the Fordham Bedford Park area of the Bronx. Library Lane, also known as Coes Lane, is a short street that's between East Kingsbridge Road and Bainbridge Avenue. The street is divided by Pole Place, which is a dead-end service street that extends north of Coes Lane. And so Library Lane serves 2 rows. The first row is that it functions as a east-west pedestrian connection between Kingsbridge Road and Bainbridge Avenue, which are 2 busy streets in this densely populated area with intense ground floor retail. And then it also provides pedestrian access to the Bronx Library Center, which opened in 2006, and it's located just opposite of Library Lane on Kingsbridge Road. And then the secondary row of Library Lane is to provide vehicle access to Pole Place from Bainbridge Avenue. So given these 2 rows, the street currently carries a large number of pedestrian traffic than vehicular. However, the street is not configured safely to accommodate the pedestrians. The grades west of Pole Place are very steep, as shown in the photos on the bottom left and the top right. And in addition, the street lacks ADA compliant ped ramps and even uneven curbs with curb reviews that go as high as 24 inches, which can potentially create a fall hazard, which is shown as illustrated in the photo on the bottom right. So the intent of this project is to provide a safe and accessible path for pedestrians along Library Lane from Kingsbridge Road to Bainbridge Avenue. And this will be done by basically reconstructing the western section of Library Lane, which is west of Pole Place, as a typical step street, and to bring this connection up to ADA compliance and enhance the safety. And then also to reconstruct the roadway and the sidewalks between Pole Place and Bain Ridge to a state of good repair, as well as upgrading all the pedestrian ramps within the project limits and installing and upgrading the streetlights to meet ADA and Vision Zero requirements. Moving on to the next slide, we'll show the plan view of the proposed improvements. So starting at the left side of the graphic, so the existing sidewalk between East Kingsbridge Road and Briggs Avenue will be reconstructed. There are currently 2 existing trees in this sidewalk area, and they will remain. However, we will, as part of the improvements, we will expand the tree pits just to improve the health and longevity of the trees. And in addition, we'll add street furnishings such as new benches around the trees. And then moving right between East Kingsbridge Road and Pole Place on Library Lane, the existing steep roadway will be replaced with a step street structure, which I will go into detail in the next slide. And then moving right to the east of the step street, the roadway and sidewalk will be reconstructed to a state of good repair. The design will provide a 12-foot sidewalk along the north side and a 5-foot sidewalk along the south side, as well as a 18-foot two-way roadway that will maintain access to Pole Place and to the existing driveways and garage entrances along Library Lane. And here what we have is a zoom in of the Step Street area. So to the north in light gray, that represents the existing platform that belongs to the building to the north, which is a 2550 Briggs Ave. This platform will remain, and the Step Street structure will be proposed directly to the south. So this Step Street structure will feature a 4.5-foot wide ADA compliant switchback ramp for wheelchair access. And then to the north of the switchback ramp, the remaining space will accommodate approximately like a 6-foot wide ramp, which is expected to serve the highest pedestrian volume compared to the other ramps in this structure. And then to the west of this ramp, a staircase will be provided to offer a quicker east-west access for users who prefer to use steps. And then going on to the next 2 slides, we will show some of the 3D renderings of this step street. In this first slide here, this is a bird's eye view looking northwest. And in these renderings, we also illustrate the proposed hand railing and the fencing. The step street structure will have a continuous hand railing installed throughout the entire step street, just for safety reasons and also to meet ADA compliance. The fall protection fence will feature is steel railing with wired mesh infill panels, which are similarly used in other city DOT step street projects. And then in this slide is just another angle looking southwest. And then I'll move on. Now I'll move on to the schedule for this project. So these are the current estimated timeline dates. Please keep in mind that the project is still in design and these dates can change. But currently the project is in final design phase, and we are scheduled to go to a mass mailing by this spring. And then the design plan and completion approval is anticipated to be in the fall of this year. And then following the approval, the project will be advertised, bid, awarded in 2027. And then construction is expected to begin in spring of 2028, with construction expected to last about 2 years. So that brings us to spring 2030 for construction completion. Then going on to the next slide, these are the community outreach, which I will send over to Maria.
Hello.
Hi, Maria.
Good evening.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So my name is Maria Centeno. I'm the Director of Community Outreach and Notification. And so part of DDC's outreach efforts, we deal a lot with the local community on the ground where the project exists. And so we basically engage with all of the different stakeholders because construction is impactful. But also here, now, today, tonight, during the design phase, we also want to hear feedback from the key stakeholders. So we continue to engage in all phases of the project. And as part of our ongoing efforts during construction, when it's most impactful, we have what's called the Community Construction Liaison, an important component to our robust outreach efforts and program. So we assign this CCL to a project. They work very closely with the project team. You can go to the next slide, please. And basically, they are the community's first point of contact. They maintain a presence on the project and ongoing communication. They also identify and resolve issues proactively with the community. Any inquiries, they take that in as well. And as a constant project communication, we have a lot of different outreach materials that we use and disseminate, not only hard copy, but as well as digitally. And most importantly, if we are doing water shutdowns, I'm not sure if this is part of this project, but most of our impactful work operations do involve advanced 72 and then 24-hour confirmation or cancellations. And again, this is shared hard copy as well as digitally and posted door to door. And in addition to the ongoing communication, we ask the liaisons to also attend the district service cabinet meetings at the community boards on a monthly basis. Next slides. So the next slide you're going to see is some of the more common advisories and project information cards, and also the look aheads that we provide, highlighting the work that's to come, in addition to quarterly project updates of work that's been completed as well as work to come. So again, this is just a handful of the different types of deliverables that we will have as part of this project's communication, and in keeping you informed. Thank you.
All right, and that's the presentation, and I will open it up for questions.
Stephen?
Betty, I see your hand up.
Yeah, as far as the community outreach, I'm familiar with Poe Place, which is that small strip right off of, I guess, Library Lane. I think that's the community that's going to be most impacted, I would think.
Right.
They do have cars that they drive in and out. How is that going to be? I mean, has there been outreach to that particular community? It's a small group of homeowners all the way to the back, and then there's one apartment building, which is the back of it. Well, the front of the building is on Bainbridge, but the rest of what's in Poe Place is just a bunch of homes, one or two family homes, and then some garage space on the other side. It's a little tiny strip of a street. I would like to make sure that that community is well informed about this project.
Yeah, so again, we wanted to come back to the community board to give an update on the new project limits, the design. And then if that seemed fine with everyone, then we were going to definitely do a more detailed outreach to the impacted community on the project. We also have another project as well that's going along Poe Park. I think it's a QED, it's Bronx and Queens. So that's
Mhm.
also another project that's upcoming as well.
Okay, well,
We've presented before to the community board. But yes, I mean, if we know that we're running with this particular schematic, the next step is to obviously do more, targeted outreach to these impacted areas.
okay, all right. I just want to make sure that those individuals, because that is considered like a private street.
Yes,
That they-
thank you, Betty. Yes,
Yeah.
I will
Mhm.
also share the meeting recording with them.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
They will be in the know, and if they have any questions, they can always reach out to me,
Yeah.
either before the executive
Hmm.
or at the general board meeting.
Very good. I want to make sure that we hear from them and what they
Yeah.
think, going down. Thank you very much.
Chad, you have a question?
Yes, I just wanted to ask, are there plans to add additional lighting in those areas
Yes,
from the
yes.
highest part, the lowest part, and in the middle of the ramp?
Yes. The ramp will have we will install lighting to make sure that the ramp is ADA compliant because part of ADA they have to meet a certain luminance, and we'll make sure that the entire ramp will be lit, and as well as the entire rest of library lane, all the intersections will meet vision zero requirements, and yeah.
Thank you.
Aline?
So
Aline Hartman?
yeah, my concern, again, I don't live there, but we do have at least one board member in the area, is the benches. I would definitely check with them on that. That section's always been, it's not the safest area to begin with, and I think she was complaining to me about the issues with drug addiction and whatnot, and it would seem that adding benches, while I love your tree idea, I think adding benches could be asking for trouble and may not be what they want, as much as it would look nice theoretically. So I would just, a word of caution on that. I would really run that by them.
Lowell?
Yeah, I like the idea of the accessible ramps, but is there enough drainage that with the ramps and the water goes down, is there sufficient drainage to take care of water flow so there won't be any ponding as the ramps go down?
Yes, as we will be providing ADA compliant manhole covers that will also take in drainage, and we'll make sure that it won't travel far where it will freeze up. So basically, yeah, like after every we'll try to provide drainage at every landing. So yeah, just to make sure that the water doesn't flow too far and doesn't freeze, and that there'll be no ponding.
Robin?
Thank you.
Robin Roland?
Hi. Couple of questions. First, to piggyback on the comment about the safety in the area. I know that's an area that has a lot of activity. Seems like there's drug sales or whatever. Um, it has there been any coordination around the safety, addressing that as you're making these changes in the area? How would that, what kind of impact would that be going forward? As was mentioned, you're putting benches there, but also being mindful of the environment as it is. Is there what, if any, coordination is there being done around safety and et cetera? Second question, I take the 9 bus every day through that area, and there's also some construction going on nearby, and I'm not sure of the schedule for that construction. So I'm wondering what additional impact will that be toward the traffic in that space?
The along well, yeah, there will be some impact along Kingsbridge Road and Bainbridge as they install new water mains. Uh, but yeah, most of the impacts will be on Library Lane though. But yeah, I'm not aware of the current construction. Yeah, that's my answer for number two. I'm not sure if I don't have an answer for number one. Maybe someone from DOT or DDC might have something to say for number one.
Can we go back to the map? Can we go to the map or just?
Sure.
No. I meant the where the rendering's at, and it shows the larger
This rendering or
the overview, the bird's eye. Yeah. So Poe Place was the place of concern, or was that Bainbridge Avenue? Or are we talking about strictly
Okay.
Library?
Let me see. I'm not great with maps.
So Library Lane is the actual darker gray. And then you have going horizontal, vertical is the Poe Place and Bainbridge towards the right.
No, I think, Robin, are you talking about the stuff in front of the Bronx Library Center?
Yes, I was going to ask you. There's some
yes.
construction going on.
Okay, well, it looks like we're expanding the sidewalk area there to include sort of like a bump out. With some current ADA ped ramps.
Okay.
And of course, obviously, the extended curbs into the street is a safety improvement installation. It aids for traffic calming. So it forces cars that are turning from East Kingsbridge Road into what is that avenue? Briggs Avenue. To slow down as they turn, and it's more for pedestrian safety and traffic calming of the vehicles that are turning.
Are you responding to the question about the traffic or safety in terms of the activity that's happening?
Why that particular area in yellow is bumped out. And so we do coordinate with DOT, OCMC, the coordination of traffic. So we have to maintain traffic as stipulated in the permit and in the contract. So the contractor, if he has to maintain 2 lanes or 1 lane of traffic, that is what he has to do. So that information is usually preliminarily, it's available at the time when the contractor is looking at the bid, right? How to bid the project. So all of that is usually included prior to construction, as far as how the contractor is expected to maintain a traffic flow along these avenues.
Yes, Robin, in terms of public safety, whenever you see something, you can always flag it to 311, 911, or the office. I know there's a lot of, I know there's a lot of.
She can call the on-site liaison as well. That's what they're there for. I mean, and we understand that, what makes sense on paper may not necessarily make sense in reality. And so there have been instances where if it doesn't make sense, the contractor flags it and says, hey, this is going to be challenging, or, it may make better sense to do it this way. And then we would have to go through the process of going back to DOT and, getting that approval to make modifications as needed. So yes, if you do see something that doesn't make sense, or it is impacting traffic and it's not working, we can review it and see if we need to modify it. So, just because it's written on paper doesn't mean it's etched in stone. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to add to what Maria was saying. If there's an issue, if we feel like there's going to be a larger issue when it comes to the benches, that's also something that we could just remove out of the scope if that's what the board feels would, be better. So that's just something to think about.
Jean Hill.
One quick question. It may have been answered before. How is all of this funded?
Well, this is a sponsored agency funded project.
It's going to be city funded. And
DOT?
it's going to be, it's going to be city funded. It's fully funded.
So the project is already fully funded and you're just working out the details?
Yeah, we're just working on finalizing the design.
Okay.
Gene, you also got a
That's usually-
presentation.
that's
You
usually
also got a
good.
presentation on this, Gene, in 2012.
In 2012?
All the way back in 2012, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
this project does have a long history. We were trying to acquire a portion of the property. It didn't work through. It didn't work out. So we're back to square one with this, which again seems to work just as well. Yeah.
So this is a project of a long history, as so many city projects are.
Maria, I saw a proposal from back then where in the platform area and the library lane area, even, where there's a ramp, there was steps and a ramp, but there were also some bushes and some greenery there. The present proposal doesn't have any of that. It's just it's rather sparse. So in the interest of beautification a little bit, is there any possibility to alter it a little bit, to put to put back some bushes or that kind of thing?
Well, we can take a look at it, but based on the current design, it's very tight. And one of the goals is to meet the ADA compliance for the ramps and the stairs. So to even put in bushes and stuff, we need, I don't know the width off the top of my head, but I think we need at least 2 to 3 feet of additional width to even put some type of plantings. Even if we want to if we want to put trees, then we need additional 5 feet of space. And yeah, it's just.
So
what I saw, the previous proposal I saw was not trees, except,
Okay, so I
in
can
that
explain.
area, the plaza area, it was just some bushes between the steps and it appeared to be also ADA compliant in that
Yes,
previous
because at the
proposal.
Yes,
time
can I get a minute, please? The previous design was based on being able to use the full width, which we didn't own and currently still don't own. We tried to acquire it. That's why the project took so long. That fell through. So now we have to work within the space that we do own. And in order to provide ADA compliance, in order to be ADA compliant, we wouldn't be able to fit any of that there. That's why it's no longer part of that design. We can possibly go back, and I'm not sure what utilities look like below where Bean Bridge meets Kingsbridge. We could probably look at something there, but other than that, it's very tight here to fit anything.
Okay, Edgar, you have a comment or a question?
I just
Edgar?
had a quick comment because the two things that are going on in that area right now, in front of the actual library, that's a temporary AC unit that's outside of the building. That eventually is going to go away as soon as they finish fixing the air conditioning on top of the actual library. So that's only temporary. And then the other is DDC has a project of the Grand Concourse, and part of that project entails improvement of the water drainage, and that's going to be going down Kingsbridge, I believe, ending around Briggs. And that too is a terminating project, so it has a time frame, and hopefully they won't conflict.
Okay.
Do you have the contact information of these folks that we should maybe coordinate or at least flag to our construction team? Would you like to share that with us?
I can share that with you, Maria.
Okay, great, thank you.
Great. Somebody had a question, Betty or
Yeah,
somebody?
yeah, real quick. What is the building that is next to this? What is that building there? Which says 4-story brick building, garage entrance, all that. Is that occupied?
Pawn shop and a ballet studio.
Well, I'm sorry, what is that?
It's a pawn shop and a ballet studio.
Oh, okay, all that there, okay, all right,
Yeah.
okay. And that faces the entrance, I see one is on Bainbridge and the other one is on Kingsbridge, East Kingsbridge Road? Okay, all right, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And I guess we move on to the next presentation.
I did want to ask, could we, if possible, get a letter of support for this project?
Carla?
You could vote now, you could table it to the executive, it's up to you. Do you want to wait to hear from the Bainbridge Tenant Association? Or you
I
want to
think-
draft something now?
I would like to hear from the other stakeholders, like the impacted group, if that's
Yeah,
possible.
I think so too.
Okay, I can send them the video tomorrow and give them until the 18th to send comments, and you can discuss at the executive meeting on the 19th.
Right, so we could either send them information and can we invite them to come to the executive committee meeting?
We can, yes.
That'll be virtual, right?
Virtual, yes. Kevin,
Okay.
is there a way that you can come to that meeting, just in case someone has any questions?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to wait until then. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Lowell, you have a comment or you have a question? Your hand is up.
Yeah, my question is, didn't we previously give a letter of support for the original project way back when? The letter we would possibly approve now is for the project, ongoing of the project, since they have presented these drawings. I think what I have.
It's for the current, what we just proposed now.
Okay.
Because it is different. Same purpose, but we're working within the existing footprint, so it's different. So we need a new letter, a more
Okay,
recent
thank
letter.
you. Thank you.
Okay. We have another presentation from the New York City DOT, Department of Transportation.
Yes. Hi,
Larissa?
can you hear me? No, Doris is unable to attend tonight.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Holly. I'm from the
Hi,
Bronx
Holly.
Borough Commissioner's Office with Renee Luciano and Kevin Perez. And we're here with the Public Realm team, who is going to talk about the Northwest Bronx planning, neighborhood planning, and which will also include improvements to the Decatur Avenue Open Street. Annika, I believe you're going to present
Yes.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Holly. I'm just gonna go ahead and share my screen. Do I have privileges? Let's see. All right. Are you all seeing my presentation?
Yes.
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 Okay, great. I'm just gonna go to full screen and then I'll get started. All right, thank you all for allowing us to join you tonight. As Holly said, I'm Annika Northland, Planning Coordinator from the Public Realm team at the DOT, joined by the Bronx Borough Commissioner Office, as well as Carissa Lidstrand from the DOT, who leads our planning team. I'm going to be presenting our comprehensive neighborhood planning effort that we've begun in the Northwest Bronx. And we're here today to really share what we've learned so far and kind of ask you what we're missing to help guide us as we move into the next steps of our planning process. We'll start with why we're studying the Northwest Bronx and look at our study area. So our northern boundary of our study area is kind of the edge of the city line or the edge of Van Cortlandt Park. Southern border is Kingsbridge Road, East 194th to the Harlem River. And then west east is more or less the Henry Hudson Parkway and the Bronx River Parkway. The Northwest Bronx presents a unique opportunity for transportation analysis due to the many north-south oriented highways, elevated trains, big parks, and the reservoir that disrupt east-west travel. There are also many subway and busway lines that end here, and from our research, we've seen that commuters are not only traveling hyperlocally, but also from other parts of the Bronx. And in addition to commuting, given all the large number of schools, the large medical complexes, commercial areas, and the parks that attract a large amount of travel both in and out and around this area. We see this as an opportunity to create a short and long-term plan for improvements that the DOT can help address some of these constraints and opportunities. I want to exemplify how we're approaching this comprehensive neighborhood planning process. We see this as a collaborative process. It's not just one static method. So each part of the process is informed by and feeds into the next. So we aim to engage with community stakeholders, establishing needs, building consensus, gathering public feedback, and looking for any opportunity to consider any early action efforts. That kind of leads us into design and coordination, making sure that we're meeting all needs across design, and then leading us kind of into long-term planning, reporting back to the community with the analysis and evaluation to kind of shape how these potential projects will shake out. We want to note, of course, that we're not the first ones to engage and plan in transportation-related projects in the Northwest Bronx. This timeline shows the studies and large-scale initiatives that we've been researching or taking account of dating back to 2014 with the Van Cortlandt Park Master Plan and the DOT-led Norwood Neighborhood Slow Zone Project. To various studies and needs assessments through the years, and then most recently, the large amount of engagement, planning, and implementation done by the Harlem River Greenway team, to Vicksburg daylighting, Kingsbridge Armory, and the city bike expansion that are ongoing projects through today. And just to help set the stage a little bit, we want to review some of the recent investments by the DOT in the Northwest Bronx so that if you're not as familiar, this gives a feel for what we do. So that includes installing accessible pedestrian signals, resurfacing roadway, upgrading pedestrian ramps to accessibility standards. There have been a number of projects in both community boards 7 and 8, but I think most notably the work around Van Cortlandt Park and Bailey to improve access to the park and pedestrian and bike safety, as well as pedestrian and bike improvements along Marshallou Parkway and in the Bedford Park area. So now that we've kind of seen our whole study area, given some background on the planning process and the DOT's work, just want to now focus on Community Board 7 and what we've been doing and learning specific to this part of our study area. So we've been doing analysis of existing conditions, looking into existing studies, surveying past outreach, and doing some new outreach in order to learn about general transportation challenges and community priorities. Last summer, we partnered with the Decatur Block Association to do on-site engagement, and in the fall, we met with stakeholders such as Lehman College, Marshallou Library, and Marshallou Preservation Corporation. And some of the top priorities we learned from this new outreach was making streets safer and more accessible for all users, increasing public space and amenities, improving access to transit, parks, schools, and local destinations, reducing traffic congestion, and increasing bus speeds. Some of the notable reports that we've also been researching are the Norwood and Bedford Park Community District Needs Assessment, the Harlem River Greenway work, and 311 request. So kind of combining everything we've learned from this new outreach we did in the summer and fall, surveying the past outreach and the reports I noted, we've identified 6 main guiding issues and opportunities for our study. So that includes improving safety and comfort for all users at intersections and improving sidewalk accessibility, improving bike connections, increasing bus speeds, enhancing and expanding open space with public space amenities, managing the curb, vehicle patterns, congestion and speeding, and addressing stormwater flooding challenges. We've then started to organize these issues and opportunities into a set of themes to help guide potential project planning in CB7. So those themes include connecting key destinations both across and within the neighborhoods, knitting across dividers where it feels complicated, no matter which way you're getting around, and promoting public health and resiliency. So how we really start to see this layout in the CB7 study area is thinking about connections to not only Van Cortlandt Park and the Botanical Garden, but also smaller parks like Williamsbridge Oval and Harris Park, thinking about connections to the Montefiore Hospital Complex or the density of schools near the reservoir and throughout. Given that majority of the transportation infrastructure is geared north-south, what connections need to be improved to improve access to these key destinations. And then there are a few factors affecting safety and comfort for all ways of getting around. So that includes traveling across the Bronx River Parkway, traveling around these largely inaccessible areas like the cemetery or the reservoir, addressing congested commercial areas by balancing truck loading, buses, and vehicle traffic, while also improving pedestrian and cyclist visibility where that might be further impaired by something like the elevated train or complicated and highly trafficked intersections. And then you already know how the slope can change a lot and feel hilly at times throughout throughout the Northwest Bronx, but which contributes to current flooding issues and also the threat of future flooding. So how can we work to reduce that impact? And we also have the opportunity to add greening elements to reduce heat and in turn improve air quality and provide more shade. So at the DOT, we have a set of tools that we use to address transportation issues. And while this isn't an exhaustive list, this slide represents the type of treatments we can implement through our projects. So whether that's public space-based, like public plazas, open streets, programming, or street seats, or something more mode-based, like expanding sidewalks, implementing shared streets, bike connections, or bus infrastructure, or improving intersections or curb and delivery management, or adding furniture and bike parking. And then we see some of these treatments exemplified in some upcoming projects that are planned for this year by the DOT. So number one on the map here we see is Decatur Avenue, which is the open street upgrade that I will be presenting on after this presentation. But that's working to create safer and shorter pedestrian crossings and reduce speeding and calm traffic. And then number two on the map is a project on Jerome Avenue that's working to improve pedestrian, bike, bus, and traffic improvements. And then Bailey and Sedgwick Avenues, that's not on the map, but it is in CB7 as well, which is the next section of the on-street Harlem River Greenway that is working to improve pedestrian traffic and bike safety. So just a quick look at kind of our next steps and kind of the schedule of where we see this process going. So starting with today, presenting to you all, engaging with you at this time to help guide this next parts of our process. Through the spring, summer, and fall, we'll be looking at reviewing past projects and starting to develop this potential project list, looking at some potential community outreach, whether it's on-site or with other stakeholders. And any of these upcoming projects, of course, they'll be coming to the board to present their projects and any upcoming implementation thereafter. And then we'd like to check in with you at some point in the fall to kind of update how this process is going and how this potential project list is developing for your input. And then, of course, as we move into the future, any long-term development and implementation. So that concludes our presentation. Just want to open it up for any feedback or any questions. I do have some questions on the slide, but anything that anyone would like to share would be great. Thank you.
Okay, Lowell?
Yeah, I think you really need to relook at Gun Hill Road and Bainbridge
Yeah.
because that's disaster. Uh, Buses cannot turn correctly. Pedestrians cannot walk across the street. Nothing moves. And it's like a frozen zone through three lights. And it needs to be relooked at, and maybe something could happen there.
Yes, no, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
That's come up in like every conversation we've had. So that's 100%. That's on our map, that's on our list, that's on our radar. Yes, 100%. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah, that whole Gun Hill area around there, yep. Gene Hill,
I have to agree with Lowell about the Gun Hill Road. It's just a nightmare. As a motorist, we never seem to be
yeah,
invested in any of these projects. It's like, what do you expect us to do with our automobiles? Also on Bailey Avenue, you made a lot of changes on Bailey Avenue, some of which make absolutely no sense to me. I don't even understand why you did it, how you drew these lines, how the traffic is supposed to flow better, because it does not. So it's like, I know you say you reach out and you ask us all of these things, but then I show up one day driving around and everything has changed. There's no place to
yeah.
park the car, and it's just an unholy mess. And that's my opinion.
No, I agree with you, Gene. I travel up and down Bailey Avenue when going to, Broadway or some other area, and the way they configured the flow of traffic now, you only have like one lane to move on each way, and that it doesn't make sense. And then they put islands, which I guess are purportedly for the safety of the pedestrians, but they put some islands now where it's very difficult to make a right turn. For example, if you're traveling south on Bailey, suddenly it's very difficult to make a right turn from Bailey to make a right turn to go to Broadway. That's on 230, 233, 234, a few of
Yeah.
those blocks. And
Well, a
same
few of
in
those
further
blocks.
south.
Mhm. Even if you're coming down and you want to make that turn where Stop and Shop is and make the right turn, and
Exactly.
they put that island out there, and which
Ex-
makes absolutely no sense. And the oddest
exactly.
part is that in that block, they do for the motor vehicles, they do testing over there.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is just it doesn't make any sense to me. I
I,
don't understand. And like you said, there's a one narrow lane as you're going up and down Bailey Avenue. And then there's like, if somebody's double parked on the right side of you, you got to swing over to this other side that's really not even a lane, because they have these lines drawn up and down there, which makes no
it,
sense.
yeah,
I have
exactly.
no idea what this is all supposed to mean.
The other
Just
thing is
makes
on,
it harder to drive.
and when you
I
go
mean, I
further,
know they don't care about drivers. We are not even on their radar. It's like we don't exist. We pay the most amount of money for a lot of this stuff, but we don't exist in none of the planning.
the other thing is when you go further down Bailey towards, I guess that's 225th Street, like where Target is, the same thing there. It's very difficult over there because you only have one lane, and if a car breaks down or his car is double parked on either side, it's like you're blocked. And there's a lot of traffic flow there because people are going to and from Target and from Broadway and across Kingsbridge Road to go further east along Kingsbridge Road, to other parts of the Bronx. And and there's a school there. That whole intersection there is another one where it doesn't make sense. So I think they need to revisit that also.
Yeah, this is good feedback to hear. We just installed this project last year, so we're still doing observations, and we'll be doing some evaluation of the project as it kind of sits there. So this is good feedback to be hearing, and we can relay this to the project team.
Yes, please. Okay, Robin, you have a question?
I have two questions. First, bus infrastructure was mentioned. I just wanted to get to understand what that means. And then the second question, in terms of outreach for feedback from the community, what does that entail exactly?
So to the first question, about what do we mean by bus infrastructure? That could mean something like the bus only lanes. I think like, for example, ones that are seen on Webster, or upgrading bus stops to be more accessible. So for example, bus stops that are like under the elevated train where bus riders have to like step into the roadway in order to get onto the bus because the bus isn't able to pull to the curb. There's certain improvements there that you can kind of just make that a safer transition from the curb to the bus. Um, so those are some examples of bus infrastructure improvements. And then to your second question, um, I'm sorry, I'm like forgetting what was your second question again? I'm so sorry.
You mentioned outreach to the
Oh,
community for their feedback. What does that
yes.
entail?
Yes. So usually that would entail, so what we've done so far is like attending like an already scheduled um event. So whether that's like a open street or whether that's some plaza programming, and having kind of like a pop-up table with either a survey or boards that we can engage with community members that are at this event. We also do kind of these like pop-up tabling um, sessions at like other kinds of whether it's strategically placed like by a transit station or something like that, anywhere that we can like engage the most amount of people. Or something else that we've been doing is identifying, with the help of the Bronx Borough Commissioner's Office, identifying uh, key stakeholders that haven't been engaged maybe before. And so having kind of like one-on-one conversations with them and getting their feedback. Um, if you're open to any, I mean, definitely open to other suggestions. If there's anything else that you would flag or specific organizations or people or events that we should be talking to, would love that feedback.
Eric, I see Eric here.
Hi, thank you. I also want to say that the bus stops along Jerome Avenue between Cambridge and Moshulu Parkway need to be relooked at. Some of the improvements that have been made along Jerome uh put the bus stop in a really odd position for and it doesn't align with the pedestrian safety idea that DOT always wants to preach. And then also, I would suggest that the termination of the Grand Concourse is a bit complicated during rush hour because we keep getting cars blocking Moshulu Parkway going into the service road, the Moshulu Parkway South Road, go as cars line up to go into Moshulu Parkway. That needs to be revisited. Uh, some of the sidewalks that were made along Bancolan Park also seem odd, shared with the bikes, but there's really no signals for that. Um, there's a few things that need to be reviewed, I would say, that have been done recently in the neighborhood.
That's really, thank you for flagging those locations. Yeah, those are some locations that we've noted as um, kind of these like past projects that we want to evaluate part of this process to see uh exactly what you're talking about, like what needs to be, what didn't we uh how has it been functioning, and what can we address to improve the area. So yeah, the termination of the Grand Concourse to Moshaloo, and then you said sidewalks around Van Cortlandt Park. Is that specifically like
Yeah, like
around Moshaloo?
around Moshulu
Okay.
Parkway also.
Yeah.
It's kind of odd that you're coming down, let's say traveling east to west on Van Cortlandt. You're going from a 2 lane to a split lane that only turns into Moshulu, and then you go into a single lane, and then you go back into a 2 lane. So it's kind of inconsistent and creates more traffic than it used to as it was before.
Got it. Okay. And then just to know, also, you were mentioning the bus stops on Jerome. Is that you said between Kingsbridge and where?
Yeah, for example, the bus stop improvement that was done on Y96,
Okay.
I think going north is great, but then the one going south is not at the corner. It's kind of like off in the middle somewhere. The bump out was done in the middle of the street. Does that mean the bus stop is there, or is but the sign was never changed for the bus?
Eric, can you send an email to us with this?
Sure, I can do that, Holly.
Thank you.
Gene Hill.
No, I was listening to when you said advising the community on the changes. I know when you made those changes on Gun Hill Road, the majority of the people that lived in that area never got the heads up. They changed the bus stops. They didn't tell anybody. People were standing at what they thought the old bus stop was. The bus would go flying past them, and they didn't even know what the heck was going on. So your communication into the community, even the change that you made on Bailey Avenue
Yeah.
and some of the other changes, the community is not really being informed. Okay. We show up to go take a bus or go someplace, and all of a sudden, or drive somewhere, then there are all of these changes that nobody told us about, that we don't know anything about. The average community person just standing there and just wondering, why did that bus just go flying past me? I know this happened on Gun Hill Road because I was taking my granddaughter to work.
Yeah.
And when she came home, she told me, she said, Grandma, why did they change the bus stops? They didn't tell anybody. So you have to have a better communication with the whole entire community. How are you going to do it? I can't really say. You need to advertise it out better, maybe put more street signs up, but the community is not really being informed like they should be.
Jean, thank you. We, besides going to the community boards and the committees, we have been going to having meetings with other stakeholders within the community. Unfortunately, I understand not everybody's going to get the information. We do our best to do the outreach, and we're talking like going out in the street and physically talking with people. But if there's any suggestions that you all have as to who we should speak to or where we should go, please, by all means, that's why we're here. We want to hear from you.
Well, it appears that you don't consult with the motorists. You're talking about on the street and with pedestrians on the street, perhaps, but also we're telling you about problems driving.
Okay. I hear you.
Yeah.
Um,
Lowell, go ahead.
yeah, I have a comment that someone, and I don't know who, needs to alert big transit trucks. I'm talking about big semis, double load semis that park on Jerome between 233rd Street and almost underneath the Woodlawn subway stop. And and I don't think these big semis and tractor trailers get the word that this isn't a safe place to park. Because I really wonder, okay, they come off and they're going south, and the next day I go down that way and they're facing north. I mean, where do they turn around? They won't fit underneath the subway. It gets really scary at times with these big transit, semis, and they're pulling two trucks. And I honestly mean no disrespect, but I don't think the people who make up these plans ever walk the neighborhood. They look at a map and they say, oh, here's the space. And I think part of your outreach should be come to the community board, a committee like us, and say, hey, can you arrange for us to have someone or a couple of people to come out and walk the neighborhood with us? Because I think that's one of the faults you do is you just look at a space and you people are looking at maps and you don't come out and walk the neighborhood. Thank you.
Robin Roland.
To add on to that about communication, because that seems to be a major issue. Um, as to what Lowell was saying was a great idea, and to that point, perhaps you could get people through various community organizations, and maybe are we able to contact you to present at a community organization?
Please send us if you have a community organization that you think would benefit from hearing from this, that could give feedback. Please send us their contact.
And also, once the plan is settled, would you come back and say, this is what we're going to be doing?
We usually send out notifications and flyers as to what what we'll be doing.
But could you also come back and to explain it to the community? Because that seems to be, so people don't see flyers.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the things as part of this process we would like to do is come back once we've been gathering all this information and have an understanding of all of the challenges and opportunities going forward. We want to create kind of this short-term and long-term project list to help with these improvements. And so we would come back to you and have that conversation, and then we can talk about like priorities and different things like that.
Could we email you at the email you have on the bottom of this slide, or do you have another email or phone number you want us to use?
You can use that email, the Bronx Commissioner. Yes.
And also through
Please.
Carla?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
Of course. Okay.
Yes. If you want to consolidate
because we have a
everything,
lot
so
of
it's
a
one.
lot of comments and a
No,
lot of
that's
suggestions.
good. We want to hear what, we want your feedback, good, bad, or other. We want it. Thank you for it. We do have one more thing. I believe, Annika, you're going to present Decatur.
Yeah, I can move on to Decatur.
Great.
Yeah, that would be great. And yes, I appreciate all the comments. That's again just echoing what Carissa and Holly have said. That's why we're here. We want to hear everything so that we can put this into a better future plan. So yes, please send your comments along to the email there. That'd be great. All right, let me pull up the next presentation. In just a minute here. All right. So switching gears to, I'm going to be presenting on the Decatur Ave Open Street Upgrade Street Improvement Project. This is also in CB7. It's between East 194th and East 195th. I'm also joined in addition to who already spoken, but also Jessica Kronstein is here, the Deputy Director of Project Development and Planning on our team. And then so again, I appreciate you all allowing us to join you tonight. Want to run through our background here and present to you our proposal for any feedback that you may have. Before we get started, I do just want to give a big thank you to the Decatur Block Association for not only for the amazing work that you do with the Open Street, but also being a great partner in this street improvement project process. And I also want to thank the local stakeholders that we've been meeting with that have also provided valuable feedback to this process as well.
Thank you.
So just an overview, we're gonna kind of give some more background on the DOT public realm. We'll review the schedule for the project. Then we'll get into some project context and our outreach summary, getting into the design possibilities, and then reviewing the design proposal. And then we'll have questions at the end for feedback and time at the end for feedback and questions. So as we mentioned before, we're part of a team called the Public Realm, and we are striving to create vibrant, inclusive spaces that improve safety, accessibility, and walkability. The slide is a representation of the Public Realm Street Improvement Project process, where each part of it informs the next. Doesn't always start and stop in the same place, but for example, with Decatur Ave, this project started with partnering and engaging with the Decatur Block Association to establish the open street, supplemented by some of the comprehensive planning that I presented previously. And now we're working through the next steps of upgrading the open street to a street improvement project to support the open street programming and operations. Maybe I don't have to dwell on this too much because this is the same toolkit slide that we just saw in the last presentation, but just a representation of the types of improvements that we have in our toolkit to include in our projects. So now I'll get into some project context. So as I mentioned, we did some outreach, part of the comprehensive planning effort last summer. In August of 2025 is when the open street schedule ended for the season, and that's when we had our first kickoff with the Decatur Block Association, our open street partner, and since then have had monthly coordination meetings. And through the fall and winter, we've continued those meetings, engaged with a few stakeholders, and then kind of have been developing the design and coordinating internally with our DOT teams. In the spring, summer, here we are today presenting to you for your feedback. Our proposed implementation for this project is in May or June, TBD. And then the open street is slated to reopen in July. And I do just like to note about the internal DOT coordination. This process has been very iterative, as it always is. And not only do we coordinate with our partner and other stakeholders, but then there's 20 plus teams on the DOT side that handle various parts of the street design in order to make sure that this design is implementable and safe for all modes on the street. So just something to keep in mind as we go through the proposal and understand the limits, but also opportunities. All right, so let's focus on Decatur Avenue. As I mentioned, this is Decatur Avenue between East 194th and East 195th. I'll pass the mic to Decatur Block Association just a second, but just to set the stage, the Decatur Block Association did a lot of work and galvanized great support in the community to establish the open street in 2024. From what I've personally experienced and what I have been told, it has been a huge asset to the neighborhood, bringing back community gathering space that had been missing for some years, which feeds into the mission for this project, which is to create a safe place for the children and older adults to be in community together. And so I'll let Nicosa Barrett from the Decatur Block Association just have a couple minutes to speak to her experience with the open street and her vision for this project.
Good evening, everyone. So you guys know me because you guys, Community Board 7, actually gave us a letter of support for this open street, and you asked me to get 100 signatures from community members, neighbors, in order to get that letter of support. One thing I will say is, first and foremost, it's been a great success. One of the things we were trying to do was bring back that, just build community and build a safe space for the community. When we had this idea and we decided we wanted to do this open street, what Annika is proposing was the furthest thing from my mind. We just wanted a space for the kids because the Decatur Block Association is comprised of residents with the collective residency of 100+ years on Decatur Avenue. And many of us grew up with PAL, Play Street. And that, as you know, it was taken away for whatever reasons, but we don't have the Play Street, we don't have the Boys and Girls Club. So in our minds, we were just bringing something back for the kids, trying to give parents a peace of mind in the fact that they could let their kids come outside and play and just be kids, especially in the summer months when, we have parks in the neighborhood, but the parks are riddled with drug addicts, and we just wanted to build a safe space. So I say all of that to say that I think what they're offering, I have we've been going over this for months, and I think Annika can attest to the fact that one of the first things I said was, you got to scale down because the parking, and people are going to fight us about parking because they already give us a hard time with the parking for the open street. But at the end of the day, what they're proposing, I think, makes the street safer. One of the things we realized with the open street is that cars really do speed through Decatur. But we didn't notice it until we had the open street, and we would close the open street, and there would be no cars on the street. So everything was empty, and we would be able to see the cars just flying through the street. There's a school at the end of the corner. There's always children outside, people crossing the street. Some of these things in this proposal offer a safety net. They offer a blanket of safety. And I'm happy that you guys are getting a chance to see what I've been seeing for the last couple of months. So that's it. And thank you for listening and letting Annika um letting her present this.
Thank you, Nakosa, for sharing your experience and context. So I'll move into some of the neighborhood context. So I like to preface the slide as this is probably information that you already know, but it's a way that we can demonstrate our due diligence and communicate some key facts that you being community members who live here can contextualize what the numbers say. So when we look at the demographics within a quarter mile of the Decatur Ave project scope, we see there's 13% of residents are older adults, 26% are under 18, 62% take public transit to work, and 71% live in households with no vehicle. And I'll just note that the populations under 18, people who take public transit, and the households with no vehicle are higher than the Bronx and New York City averages. And on Decatur Avenue itself, there is a currently closed but could be open one day open space and playground. There are 3 daycares located on the block towards the south end. And just around the block is the PS 54 elementary school. There are nearby bus lanes, subway, and MTA North lines, and numerous community organizations. And here's a snapshot of the existing conditions where we see the fairly narrow sidewalks and Carline Street of Decatur Avenue today. And just looking at this information just helps us to understand who we're designing for and what neighborhood context informs the nature of how this block operates. When we look at the neighborhood from a traffic safety standpoint, so I want to note that the whole area falls within a Vision Zero priority zone. Decatur Avenue itself is a mostly residential street. However, there are major roads, Grand Concourse, East Kingsbridge, and Webster that see a fair amount of traffic that may speak to any potential cut-through traffic. From 2020 to 2024, the East 194th intersection saw 1 injury to a passenger in a vehicle and 4 injuries to pedestrians, and 1 pedestrian who was seriously injured. And at the East 195th corner, there were 2 injuries involving vehicles and 1 involving a motorized scooter. And these injuries involved young adults, and senior age groups. So again, just speaking to the part of the mission to make this a safer block. And so something that's what's going on? Oh, I'm so sorry. I just had a weird technical difficulty. I'm just gonna reshare my screen. Sorry about that. Oh, I'm so sorry. I have to actually re-sign in here. If you could give me 2 minutes, I really apologize for this. I am signing back on. Sorry. All right. So sorry. I'm gonna reshare my screen now. I don't know. I don't know what happened there, but here we go. Um, all right. Everyone is able to see my screen again, right?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry again. I really apologize for that. Um, so Decatur Avenue, between East 194th and East 195th, has a pretty interesting infrastructure condition. So if you stand at East 194th and are looking down the street, due to there is a slight slope in the street that goes kind of up and down, and the street is also slightly curved and it's also very long. So if you stand at East 194th, you can't see the other side. And so do part of that is being the slope that I mentioned. So if the street basically comes to a highest point around the middle of the street, and that gives us the opportunity to construct in concrete due to the sloping of the street, allowing water to flow down to the catch basins on either side. And then anything that we propose on either end of the street will have to be done in paint, as you see in this photo here. So looking at some of the outreach that we did last summer. So, well, as I've mentioned, we have monthly partner check-ins with the Decatur Block Association. We've done some stakeholder engagement with the Ford and Bedford Corporation, as well as the Assembly Member's Office and the Council Member's Office. And then last summer, we tabled at the Juneteenth Block Party hosted by Decatur Block Association. And some of the key takeaways that we learned was one, that Decatur Avenue Block has a strong and diverse community and it feels safe in terms of public safety. There is a lack of quality open space, as Nikosa was speaking to earlier, and there's a community desire for more public space to gather and be in community together. There is also desire for more public space amenities like greenery and seating. And there is also note of speeding on Decatur Avenue, which feels consistent at all times, but definitely sees an increase when the open street schedule ends. So now we'll get into some design possibilities. So this is an example of an open street upgrade that we worked on in the Crotona Park East neighborhood in the Bronx. So on the left, you can see the before. You'll notice intersection. And then on the right is the after with these painted curb extensions that allow for shorter crossings and traffic calming. And then we see similar treatment at this intersection, the before on the left and the after on the right, with a gentleman being able to cross the street at the shorter crosswalk. This is an example of something that we are able to do that call a curb extension as gateway. So this is something that is done at the beginning of the street of a one-way street. You'll notice that there's extended painted space coming from the sidewalk that not only is extended pedestrian and public space, but it also creates a shorter crossing at the beginning of the street that signifies to cars to slow down as they enter. These spaces are usually protected by these edge objects such as planters, granite blocks, or flexible delineators. And then this is a similar treatment just done in the middle of the street instead of at the beginning. This is colloquially what we call a hug, because you can notice that it's shortening the vehicle passage here in order to, again, slow down cars. It's a traffic calming treatment that also extends the sidewalk and creates more pedestrian and public space. And again, protected by planters and granite blocks and flexible delineators. This is another item in our toolkit that is an enhanced crossing. So this is an accessibility treatment that allows us to, again, you extend from the sidewalk like this, but having an actual crosswalk with the signage that signifies to stop here for pedestrians, allowing for another traffic calming crossing measure. And then lastly, another treatment in our toolkit is a raised crosswalk where it's kind of your typical sidewalk, typical crosswalk, but then the crosswalk is actually raised to be the same level as the sidewalk, allowing for an easier passage and also kind of raising the pedestrians, increasing their visibility. There is a slight slope and then markings to signify the slight slope and signage calling out the raised crosswalk. So these are some of the items. So this is just a recap of the different treatments that we just spoke about. So the curb extension as the gateway, the mid-block painted curb extension, we are able to build in concrete in the middle of the street, mid-block enhanced crossing, a raised crosswalk, and any edge objects to help designate the space. So just to review our project goals, what we're trying to accomplish with this proposal is to increase public space, create safer crossings, reduce speeding on the street, provide more greenery and public space amenities, and to support the open street programming. So this is the design proposal that we see as optimizing open space and pedestrian safety. I'll walk us through and just kind of start at the southern end and go north. So here at the southern end at East 194th, we see the curb extension as gateway. So we have kind of a shortened crossing here, expanded pedestrian space, as well as due to the shortened crossing, it signifies to a car as they're entering to slow down. Then we encounter a series of hugs throughout the street, strategically placed, one before the crosswalk as another traffic calming measure, and then two more towards the towards the north part of the street, towards the daycares. So there's a daycare here, and daycare here, and then the school that we were talking about is just around the corner. So we've heard from community members that there are lots of school children who are crossing the street here actually to get to and from the school and the daycares. So this crossing helps fortify and create safer crossings for these children who are going to school. And then we also have the opportunity to actually extend some of the tree pits and add some low plantings for added greenery, as was desired in the community outreach. And then the enhanced crossing and the raised crosswalk. So they're come with the markings, the signage to signify this crossing here. So the proposed curb management plan. So down here, it's converting 4 parking spaces to expanded sidewalk that slows traffic and increases pedestrian visibility. At the concrete mid-block extension, it's converting 6 parking spaces to create an accessible mid-block crossing, adding greenery and expanding the sidewalk. And then the Hugs convert 6 parking spaces to expanded community gathering space that slows traffic and increases pedestrian visibility. And then just to kind of zoom in and understand, this is fairly flexible, but just a kind of a way that some of the edge objects can work. They help to designate the painted space and make sure that they're functioning as they're supposed to. So using granite blocks to deter parking in the spaces and supplementing with greenery and planters helps to make sure that the spaces function properly. So that concludes our presentation, and I'd love to hear any feedback. Love to take it into consideration. Thank you very much for listening, and sorry for my technical mishap.
Thank you for the presentation. That was great. Anybody have any questions or comments?
I think it's almost 8:50.
Yep.
I think everyone is a little tired, but we'll share the recording with everyone. You may not have any questions now, but you can share any questions before the executive committee meeting on the 19th or the general board meeting on the 24th.
And Carla, just to let you know that once we post this online, I'll send you the link that you could share to everybody.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you, Holly. And thank you, everybody, for the presentation.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, I think that concludes the agenda for the meeting. Does anybody else have anything else to say? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second. Yes, second.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Aye.